Anyway, so some people pop up. I got the book. I know I have the new book. I don't know where I put Farming While Black, but we'll let people know. Okay, hey everybody. All right. Peace, everybody. My name is Rosa Clemente. You're tuning in to Disrupt the Chaos. They said it couldn't be done. 10 to 7, 16 guests, and ending with one of the dopest people I've known. I've seen you. I mean, I'm really, really glad that me, Justin, and Alicia moved here when we moved here. But I want to thank everybody who's watched every segment. My goal today was to bring you people, voices, people I implicitly trust, people that challenge each other, debate in a good way, because that's what I could do to contribute right now at this moment. But with so much disinformation and so much craziness, I do know one thing, fam. We have to be about self-determination, period. We're seeing so many of our people losing jobs and grants and all of that. We're seeing the nonprofit industrial complex implode on itself, you know, but as Malcolm taught us, there's no revolution without land. And the way we even frame who's on the land, and we know what land that is and how we work in cooperation. So it's been 10 years since me, Justin, and Alicia, well, they moved to Albany. I came back since I went to school here and lived back and forth for a while. And I had obviously heard of Leah Jonah and their young kids. Is so crazy. They all met when they were like, what, 9, and now they're all in college. It's like, it blows my mind. But in this decade, I've seen So Fire Farm go from like this to like the levels of all of it. And I tell you, sis, I'm always like, hey, you need to go Soul Fire Farm, Fred Hampton, let's go. I'm like, it's like the same with Cooperation Jackson and now with Liberation Farm. But also, I think Soul Fire Farm is the model of a lot of things: cooperative economics, feeding, healing, friendship. It's just been completely incredible to see what you all have done. And you wrote the first book, Farming While Black, got the next book. I love this book. Black Earth Wisdom, Soulful Conversations with Black Environmentalists. I mean, the programs you have, the youth program, the solstice, the work that you have done, in Puerto Rico and supporting, and just to see you grow into this incredible, it's not an organization, just an incredible community. So Leah Penniman, I know you just have people and you had to run and do this, and you did it at the last minute. First and foremost, thank you so much. And thank you, Cooperation Jackson, that sponsors this show. And I really want to end with you. I mean, I always love your energy, but also you're showing things that concretely can be done, but it takes a lot of planning and it's not easy work.
Talk about it. Mm-hmm.
So fam, So Fire Farm is, people will say it's upstate New York. If you know where Albany is, it takes about an hour to get there. Again, I encourage everybody to follow them on social media. And if you can make it to Solstice, that gathering will change your life, because it has changed mine every time I go in all the good ways. So Leah, thanks for being on with me tonight. I really, really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Rosa. I wouldn't miss it. This is such an important day, and I cannot believe that you've been going for 9 hours and you said 16 interviews. That's next level. And actually, it's interesting that it's 16, because 16 is a sacred number in the Yoruba tradition. 16 is the number of major Odu, which are the sacred books, the oral books of scripture that have been passed down for thousands of years in our indigenous religion. So it's interesting that somehow the universe handed yourself these 16 calabashes of wisdom in the form of your guests on a day when we are really centering our heritage, our liberatory heritage, which, I argue needs to go all the way back Sankofa style to understand where we came from and what is the cosmology that roots us in who we are.
Yeah, and optimism, right? Like all of us get down and you get hopeless sometimes, but I believe in our people that much. And also the counterpoint to this crazy demonic evil administration, because I'm just at the point where like, yeah, I don't really want to talk about them anymore. Like all of us have been doing that for 101 days, and now is the time to just like turn it off. Not that you don't know what's happening, but you don't have to immerse yourself in it. And that's what I wanted to do. And in fact, we've said, hardly have said his name or the administration. So Leah, if you could kind of just give the background and the history of how Soul Fire Farm became to be.
Absolutely. And I want to bridge to something that you said around rooting in self-determination, because I just want to call in one particular ancestor before I talk about Soul Fire, because we didn't make up what we're doing. This comes from our heritage. And Mama Fannie Lou Hamer, when she was organizing with the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, would have these gatherings of young activists in her home. And they would tease her because she spent so much time farming, gardening, and canning food. And they felt like the real business that we need to get to is this political business. And her response to them, I will never forget. It's my favorite quote of all time. She said, "If you have 400 quarts of greens and gumbo soup canned for the winter, no one can push you around and tell you what to say or do." Right. She fundamentally understood that if we don't have self-determination in the form of control of our food supply, our housing supply, energy supply, if we don't have some modicum of democracy and independence in that, then we can't be unfree, because we're dependent on those who would do us harm for those basic needs, right? So all that to say, that ethos very much informed Soul Fire. We were living in your community, your neighborhood in the south end of Albany, New York. And as many folks know, that's a food apartheid neighborhood. So very difficult to get fresh food. There's not a supermarket, farmer's market, land to grow. At the time when we moved there, which was 2005, there wasn't even a bus line that went to the supermarket. So when our neighbors found out that my spouse Jonah and I had farming experience, they started to peer pressure us very gently to start a farm that would provide that food. And we accepted that peer pressure. And in 2006, we signed those papers, married ourselves to a hard scrabble 72-acre mountainside, rough and like no infrastructure, no electric, no septic, no well, no buildings. Even the soil was washed away. And it took us 4 years to build the house that you see behind me, which served as our education center for the first decade of the farm. So over time, like not only have we been able to grow food and deliver it for free or low cost to our neighbors in the South End and beyond on a weekly basis, but on top of that Solidarity Share program, we really focus on educating, training, supporting, equipping, inspiring a rising generation of Black and brown farmers. Because to free ourselves, we must feed ourselves. And so we need to make sure that we know how to do that work, and also that we have access to the land, the capital, and the political support, community support to be able to do that.
So, you moved there and like you said, nothing. When was the moment where you were like, oh, this might take a minute? And then, y'all didn't have the babies yet, right?
We were that crazy. We had a little baby. They were toddlers. They were toddlers when we got this land.
Got it.
So we built this house with toddlers needing snacks and, naps and all that. But I think the moment was, thank goodness for early 20s, shout out early 20s, because the
energy
and sort of that very helpful naivete about how hard things will be. I think if we had really known, but I remember this one time when Jonah and I were hand digging part of the foundation for this house. And if anyone knows Grafton, New York, when I say rocks, that is an understatement. When I say hard pan clay, that is an understatement. So we were hand digging with shovels, all calloused and blistered and bloodied. And it was tough. And I remember looking at each other and being like, do you want to quit? And he's like, no. Do you want to quit? I'm like, no. We're just going to keep going.
What did people say? Like when you're telling your fam and they're like, you're like, come, we live here now.
I feel like by and large, folks were supportive, but there was some skepticism. I think the way that Western capitalist colonial society measures success and wealth is in terms of the dollars in your bank account, whether you have a pension track, stable job. And so the fact that we were, I was working as a public school teacher at the time. Jonah was doing some contract construction work. The fact that we were taking every penny we had and sinking it into this piece of rural land that didn't promise any economic return, that definitely made a lot of family members and friends nervous. And then when I eventually quit my steady job that had benefits in order to farm full time, that also turned some heads and took honestly, a lot of courage on my part, because I grew up in relative poverty. And one of the promises I made to myself is that I would not put my kids through that. And so I'd always tried to have, like, teaching science and math is one of those steady things. You're not going to be rich, but you're going to be okay. And so to leave that, I had to also do a lot of my own internal work of having faith in this vision and faith in the community to support the vision, so that, I knew that we would be okay. And the people that we were bringing along with us, that I wasn't setting them also up for some sort of failure or disappointment.
Yeah. And I mean, and then COVID comes. And then definitely everybody was like, damn, at least we know if we gotta go to a farm, it's like 30 minutes away. But it's at that time, y'all were probably the safest in all the ways in terms of like, no, actually, we have everything we actually need. Like, I'm sure there were moments where you had to get something delivered or stuff, but I find it in looking at the time frame, then I'm like, that it was the safest place for people to be, and even if there were one or two gatherings, I mean, a lot of things obviously got canceled, but at least it was that. And then people beginning to really see the vision play out, especially as you begin to build all these structures.
It's so true. And I remember that being a big turning point for our kids too, because, farming is not easy. I'm not going to romanticize it at all. Farming and social justice activism are two of the most difficult pursuits. They have highest rates of mental health challenges, very low pay. You're outside in all kinds of weather, and it's very hard. And I remember our kids, especially the youngest, just having some misgivings about the choices that we had made to leave Albany and to be rural and to invest in this way. And then when the pandemic hit, which, I'm not celebrating at all, it was a humanitarian disaster. And some blessing that came out of it was that I feel like it opened up not only for the community's eyes, but also for our children, just the value of what it is to be an essential worker, to be in a place where so many of their peers were trapped inside of apartments, just playing video games all day.
Yep.
And our kids were able to, it's when we really ramped up our Soul Fire in the City program. So we would go and build gardens all around Albany and Troy for people. So you fill up the truck with the lumber and the soil and the plants and go and just build gardens because people needed food. And so we did so many gardens in 2020. And so they were able to help with that. We went from selling food, we used to sell food, to giving all of it away. So instead of doing the sliding scale, it was just all solidarity shares. So we ramped that up. We were delivering food. And I could really see this sense of purpose fill them in a way that I had not previously seen. And then, yes, of course, to what you're saying, that people were like, you're our backup plan. We'll be out there. I think we sort of unofficially adopted a few young people for the summer because
I was like, I don't need GPS. I know exactly how to get there. I'll be there in 39 minutes. Like, on the, but can you quantify? I think in all of these years, what's the totality of people that you have fed?
Oh, that's a great question. So I don't want to accidentally close this tab, so I'm not going to pull up stats. These are going to be approximate. But we opened the Solidarity Share in 2011. And some people get a full bag delivered to their door as households, and other people pick up select items from institutions. So depending how you count it, each year it's between 100 and 700 individuals that are getting the food every week. Usually the same folks every week for, 15 years. And then in addition to that, we have between 1 and 2,000 students who come to the farm every year for our programs, and another, 20 to 100,000 that come to our online classes, because we teach a lot of farming and organizing online. So it's been, I will tell you, Rosa, I went out to the woods in part because I'm an introvert. I was really trying to be in a quiet life. And something that surprised me, I knew that our people needed food and that's what we were planning to do. But every other thing that we do came because community members said, this is a need. Like, we need you to have youth programs. We need you to have farmer training. We need a land trust. We need Spanish first programming. We need gardens in the city, right? All of these things that we're up to, the organizing that we're up to, which has exploded in the past decade. Like, Black farmers organizations have exploded. It's because of community request.
Yeah, I mean, we either have bought the share or our financial situation. Last year, you gifted us a share. And I want people to understand, like, with the share program, people don't go to the farm. People, they drive and drop them off like one at a time. It's not like, oh, you got to get to, no, it takes work. All I'm saying is, like, if you're part of that, you're going to open your door once a week or go somewhere locally, and your fruits and vegetables are going to be there. And obviously it's fruits and vegetables that are in season. Right. What was there, like, this moment where you're like, okay, you're here, you've built some of the structures. When did you realize, like, oh, this is blowing up? Like, from when we first moved here, you were doing this, and then there came a moment where it just, like, it went to a whole different level of what you were all doing, and the amount of people, including the youth summer, which I'm so glad Alicia and them were together,
I'm
and
so
started.
glad. They were our first group in our youth program. They were wonderful.
And it's so great, like, to know that all of our kids are in some form of community with each other, that at any given time, if one of them something, the other ones are gonna step up. But when was that where you're like, oh yeah, this is a lot? It's going to require us hiring more people, putting in actual infrastructure, becoming a profit. Then you're planting, like, they don't have people, they're not hiring people, quote, to plant. And so that's part of the purpose and the work that you all do when people come from not only the country but around the world.
Yeah, I mean, I think a big turning point for us is that we were a family farm from 2006, we got the land. 2010, we opened the farm as a family farm up until 2015, because we had started to see how many folks were interested in the educational programs. And we just couldn't manage it as a volunteer part-time project anymore. We know that we needed, if we were going to continue in that direction and meet the community need, we needed staff, we needed a budget. We didn't have a budget. It's just like my teaching salary. And so we made a very heart-wrenching decision to start a nonprofit organization in 2015. We also have a housing co-op, and there's some complexity there. But as we know, nonprofits are kind of enmeshed in the matrix with the federal government, and there's a lot of oversight and control, and ways that funders can try to get you to compromise your mission. So we try to be very intentional about using the nonprofit as a tool and not as an identity. And then over time, added staff. And then there was a point in, it was maybe 2018 or 2019, when it became very evident to kind of the powers that be that we were not operating a single family residence, but we were operating more like a center. And so we had to upgrade our buildings. And, now we have facilities that sort of match the use and that are, code compliant and accessible for people with disabilities and all of these things, which is a good thing to do, but required a lot of fundraising, a lot of planning. I'm very, very lucky to be married to an incredible designer and builder. So the buildings are gorgeous and very thoughtful here. But yeah, it I think part of what garnered so much interest and attention was that I started writing some articles about the work for Yes Magazine around 2014. And there got some traction and resonance about that intersection between the land work and our liberation as a community, and some interest in the political sphere around that, which was part of that momentum.
Yeah, and then comes, you know, the speaking engagements, the presentations, and now you have had to, I mean, you can't do them all, but you have a team and y'all are really good at making sure that younger people get into the next level, or like pushing them in the best ways. Was there a moment where you might have been like, this might not work, and what would we do?
Oh, so many moments, every moment, every year, Rosa. I mean, you've actually been really helpful for me in that, because I remember grappling with notoriety, especially notoriety that was not planned or desired.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between the way people treat people when they see you as a human, an individual, a peer, versus when they see you as a public figure. There can be all of this projection of, oh, you should do this, you shouldn't do this, or why are you this, or why are you that? And it really caught me off guard. It was pretty, you know, it was like a dark night of the soul. It was internally disruptive. And I remember having a conversation with you about that. And because of your, you know, your work, which has been very public, and being the vice presidential candidate for the Green Party, you gave me this great advice around, I don't know if you remember, but you said around creating an inner circle of trusted advisors that, you know, will tell you if you are off course, and they will help you come correct. And then to sort of like take everything else with a grain of salt, just to accept that when you are doing work that's very visible, that people are going to just throw all kinds of stuff at you, and you don't need to like take it too personally or pay too much attention. Like, pay attention to that circle of 10 or 20 people that you know are going to tell you the truth and keep you accountable. And that was great advice. And so kind of use that as we were building out our board of directors, and making sure we have a good number of wonderful movement elders on our board, and they will always collect you if they need to collect you. So yeah, I really appreciate your advice.
Yeah, I mean, because I saw it and I was like, it's jarring. Like, my work as an activist didn't come like that, you know, but there was a moment where Soulfire became like that. And I do remember at least saying to you, like, you know, you can't, the same thing, you can't let people who know nothing then come at you and just start, you know, and always men for some reason, like mansplaining, and also that we're not commodities. Like, you know, I think one of the hardest things in my life has always been like when people like, you're a brand, I'm like, don't say that. I'm not a brand. I'm not going to be one. I mean, as a public person, you know, I understand my responsibility, but also I don't have a solution to every problem. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
you're not an oracle or a god. Yeah, people will come up in the line when you're signing your books and be like, should I marry this person?
Yeah.
You're like, you think I'm the oracle? Like, I don't even understand what's happening right now.
No, I'm trying to keep my marriage together. I don't know. Like, but you said about being introverted, and I know you are, because actually I know people may think this is crazy, but I am a little introverted in this way. Like, once I need to disappear, I'm done. Like, there'll be people, where you been last month? I'm like, taking a damn break. Like, I've been very good at that. But also, like, again, we're not like a thing where, like, these accolades and all these things, those are nice, they're beautiful. You get an award, or somebody really, you know, likes you and what you said at that engagement, or what you did. But it also requires you having an ego that is like, you got to step back. Like, if you feel the ego, you know, and you, like how the movement says, low ego, high impact.
Right. Oh, that's beautiful. I hadn't heard that before, but that's why I hang out with June Sun. So for folks who don't know, one of the reasons Soulfire is in Grafton, New York, is because we are very close to this wonderful Buddhist temple. It's in the Panzamihoji Japanese Buddhist temple with June Sun, who is this elder monastic She's just so badass. There aren't even words, but she spent her entire adult life walking thousands of miles for peace and justice across the world at sites of great atrocity, Hiroshima, Auschwitz, sites of genocide, Standing Rock. I mean, that's her life mission. And then also built this incredible temple. So I am there most days to pray and meditate and learn and chant. And I do peace walks whenever I can. And I feel like that spiritual grounding is really important for me, because you're absolutely right. It actually makes me a little sick to my stomach. Like when I see the way that, I don't know, the commodification of our humanity. And I've had people say it to me too, like, oh, your brand is authenticity. I'm like, that's an oxymoron. Like, what are you talking about? And so not interested. Like, I am really trying to go in another direction of simplicity, of dematerialization, of, with all of our speaking engagements, we always offer them to our teammates and try to train up our alumni. And to the extent which I'm doing the work or speaking out, if it's in service to the movement, fine. If it's not, I'm just not interested. And so, yeah, I really like what you're saying about low ego, high impact. And I think we all have ego, but it takes constant spiritual practice to try to not heed the ego's desire to be amplified or seen, but to really remember that I'm hoping it's like the love for our people and the love for the earth that is motivating us. And that's a selfless love.
Yeah. And I think our generation, particularly those of us specifically born after 1969 to the late 70s, we weren't taught about any of this. And then when we went to college in the 90s, the way we even understood like the co-op, in on college, and or the whole like, oh, you're granola eating all this, but there were decades where it seemed, which was completely incorrect, that Black and brown people have no connection to land. Mm-hmm. They don't have a connection to food. They don't have of how you use something more than once, and the way environmentalism or farming was branded was like all white, where in fact the indigenous people have taught us that. Exactly. And you all, and I want to ask you about that too, but right, like they took that away from us. They took away, like everything in the 70s, 80s became fast. You buy a microwave, you throw the vegetables in there. Who grows food? Why would I want an apple from an apple? Because it's a real apple. It's not modified. Like, a strawberry shouldn't be that big. Don't you know that? But they made it like if folks in that generation growing up, like that we had absolutely no connection as Black, brown, indigenous people to Mother Earth, which is our ancestors have that connection and they pass it down. But maybe sometimes they didn't pass it down just because I think sometimes all those practices that our ancestors, but our parents and grandparents had, a lot of them also didn't pass it down because they wanted us to fit in.
Exactly.
Like, I remember asking my mom, like, why did I stop speaking Spanish? And she was like, because I wanted you to fit in when we moved to the suburbs, right?
Devastating. Yeah.
Angry in the 90s when I come my political self, now understanding a lot of our parents did that, especially us as Puerto Ricans or Latinos, because we were penalized for having accents. We were made fun of for having accents. People, I mean, it's crazy that, I grew up in a time where people made fun of somebody that knew 2 or 3 languages. And you're like, now
people are paying money for their whatever Duolingo expanse.
Yeah. So it's like, these, because you talk about this a lot, the ancestral process, but you also have, I'm not sure if I'm framing this right, but your commitment that this is also and always part and parcel of indigenous people. And so like that connection that you're very purposeful and always saying like, this is native land.
Of course, because true, right? No, I mean, you said so much in there, and I think that I just first I want to call also into the room one of my farmer comrades in Philadelphia, Chris Bolden Newsom, and what he always says is that the land was the scene of the crime, but she was never the criminal. And so if you think about Black folks' relationship to land in this country as being circumscribed and penned in by slavery and sharecropping, that has really defined exactly what you're talking about, where a lot of parents or grandparents don't want their children connected to the land because of this association with trauma, with oppression, with degradation. But the land herself was never the agent of that oppression, right? And so we have this rising generation sort of reclaiming the noble belonging to land that preceded slavery. I mean, there's thousands of years of agricultural genius and innovation. So when you're saying like people think about granola crunchy as a white thing, maybe, but if you look at organic farming itself, Dr. George Washington Carver, Black agronomist, he came up with modern organic farming. Booker T. Watley, Black agronomist, came up with Pick Your Own and the CSA, Community Supported Agriculture. You have the women of Ghana and Liberia who taught us the African dark earth compost. You have the Ovambo people of Namibia who taught us raised beds. You have Cleopatra who did the first vermi composting, right? So all of these technologies actually have Afro-Indigenous roots and Pan-Indigenous roots as well. So it's important for us to, when we say Afro-Indigenous, I think it also emphasizes the way that we tie ourselves into a global Indigenous community. Not that all Indigenous people are the same, but when we are positioning ourselves in a way that is contrary to colonialism and reclaiming our indigeneity, it's important to do that in solidarity with other Indigenous people. So we have a deep relationship with the Mohican Nation. We do land back work. We do seed rematriation work, right? We do cultural exchange work. We actually have 2 programs on the farm this summer. We have a Mohican night of storytelling and music. We have a Mohican plant medicine workshop. So folks should come through to these amazing workshops and get to know the people whose land this really is, right? And then also we're members of Via Campesina, which is an international Indigenous-led peasant movement. And I think that, yeah, these problems were not created by one identity group, and they're not going to be solved by one identity group. So we really need to be working in solidarity and building coalitions across communities.
Yeah, I want to pull up the trailer to the documentary that just came out. I mean, I'm like, it's about to win MAD awards, as it should. Stop this for a second. There's a documentary now recently, 2 weeks ago, Farming While Black. This is a trailer, then we'll talk to Lee about it.
If Black folks and other Indigenous people have contributed so much to this regenerative farming movement, why are we not flourishing? Today, 98% of the farmland is controlled by white folks.
It's very challenging to create an alternative existence off of the land when the land itself is deeply commoditized.
We knew it wasn't going to be easy. Historically, it's been really challenging to acquire land. I would work every day and come home exhausted, and Jonah would have been out on the land, all day by himself, building and farming. It was hard on our family.
In city after American city tonight, thousands of people have once again taken to the streets.
What happened with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and so many others is to bring into the forefront race.
My bill would end discrimination within the USDA.
That debt relief has been challenged by white farmers, saying that it's unconstitutional.
And they're on the wrong side of history on this one.
We can't wait. We can't just sit around. We have to take matters into our own hands. We are uniting as one community and working towards a common vision of Black land sovereignty. We have nothing to lose but our chains. We have nothing to lose but our chains. Our generation is realizing that a piece of our culture and a piece of our souls was left behind. And we're now in a position to go back.
We may have historically left the land, but the land never left us. We're of the dirt, all of us, regardless of what color or creed we are, of the dirt.
Seeing it because I am empathetic, and I'll keep saying it. I am so grateful to have been witness to two pretty incredible things: the founding and the formation of Black Lives Matter when we moved to LA, and then we ended up back here in Albany and meeting you all, and the kids being so young. And I think also what you have shown is that it's hard work and it doesn't happen in a day, you know? Like, if we look at the movements to free our political prisoners, they didn't get free because someone commuted their sentence. They got free because there was a movement for decades to also, you know, a president to be like what Biden, you know, look, at the end of the day, you know, finally Leonard came out, and then Obama and his commuting of Oscar Lopez Clivera. But the reason these things happen because there were decades of work, and I think in a time where especially young people's attention span, and if they come organized or activists, we have to be real. Like, first of all, we may not win a lot. Second, we work decades on things, but you've also decades, but you built an institution, which unfortunately, how many institutions were lost in the 80s and the 90s, and how many institutions, like the brick and mortar, like you go to New York City, there's 3 that are, quote, people of color, right? You got obviously the Apollo, which is also like, it's still Black, but gentrified Harlem, National Black Theater, and then the one is in the city, Dr. Maita Moreno Vega with the Caribbean Cultural Center, right? Here for over 50 years. But there are very few. And
I love that you're saying this, Rosa, because I don't think people understand. Like, we are almost 19 years building this institution. Institutions are very hard to build. It's the brick and mortar, yes. It's the soil and the buildings and the infrastructure, yes. And that's so much work. I mean, everything from making sure the pipes don't leak to the internet goes and the bills are paid. But then you look at the institutional and community infrastructure. What is it to show up with a group of diverse people every day, get along well enough to do the work, stay focused and on task, have accountability without, you know, chaos? Like, it is hard work. And so when an institution dies, like when our institution dies, that is like losing a star in the solar system to a supernova. It will take decades to build back what is lost. And I was just rereading, you know, some analysis on how we respond to the moment in terms of when there's tyranny, when there's fascism, what are sort of the lessons that we can learn from other fascist regimes. And one of the most important things is to defend your grassroots institutions. It's like everybody pick an institution that is controlled by the grassroots. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's reasonably values aligned, and defend it. Because one of the things that they will go for is to dismantle your your libraries, your co-ops, your farms, your organizing centers, right? Your art, like that is what they go for, because that's the center of power, is our institutions.
But as you also said, the main thing, there's, you know, when you talk about war, one of the tactics, and now we're seeing that play out in Palestine, is starvation. Sudan, starvation. Haiti, starvation. You weaponizing food, right? And that's why it's pretty dope, like, to be where it's a soul fire farm, then it's a liberation farm, then wild seed, right? All in this compact upstate New York, you know. And that's why I consistently, with people like, or I'm like, Cooperation Jackson, Soul Fire Farm, Liberation Farm, 3 right there, boom, punto. Because the attacks are coming. But I also think as we get into like warmer weather and so many of the programs that you do, I think that's the counter offensive to this madness every day, right? Like, you're in the dirt, you're growing, you're in community. You don't have to worry about dressing up or look like, none of that matters. What matters is like being with the people and learning skills. That's why I love that you have all those workshops. Like, now people could just be like, oh, here we go. Because it's not an easy thing to grow anything. It takes years of practice. But So, how is the documentary doing? I'm sure like it's getting rave reviews. I do know that.
You know, I would have to ask, I'm really grateful for content films. So this documentary, like I said, so many things that happened just happened because somebody wanted them to. So Mark and Bernie and Liz and that whole crew, they came to one of my events on book tour for Farmer Well Black in 2019. They're like, oh, can we interview you about the book? I said, yeah, of course. Then they said, is it okay if we come to the farm to get some footage and follow up? I was like, yeah, word, come through. And they were like, is it okay if we come back and get some more footage? You can kind of see where this story is going. They're like, we want to do a feature-length documentary. And it was, I will tell you, I was skeptical because I was like, the media, sometimes they be getting in your way. Like we're trying to do our work and they're like, oh, can you do that over? Or can you put this mic on?
Yeah.
But they were cool. It's like people of color and they, you know, they do a lot of justice-oriented films and they kind of won our hearts over. I was like, we don't do documentaries, but we'll do this for y'all. So I really can take no credit for this. The only thing that I did in terms of direction, obviously contributed my voice, but I said, as long as you don't make it only about Soulfire, because that's the problem we have, is that we reify one organization or one person, and you need to put other farmers. So they put Karen Washington, who is my mentor and the founder of the National Black Urban Gardeners and Farmers Organization, and then Blaine Snipstall, who is a peer who we've co-authored together and does amazing building and farming work. So it really features these 3 Black farmers and how our stories weave together as a kind of example of the wider movement, right? And I think it's doing really well. They're telling me they're getting awards and screening and stuff, but honestly,
it's definitely,
we have to ask Mark.
It's the next level. You're going to see it. It's you know, it's incredible. So yeah, what's you know, in this time, the historical era, what's like a piece of advice you would give to particularly younger people going, you know, knowing everything that's happening in this country and the isolationists and the rest of the world hating, you know, as they should, but being impacted still by the decisions? Like what would you say to a young person now?
I mean, my heart goes out, especially to young people, because they did create this mess and then they're right in the crosshairs of the mess. Like my kids are in college and the college campus repression, and it's really intense. But we have to remember, you know, a story we always tell at Soulfire is about our ancestral grandmothers who had the audacious courage to braid seeds in their hair during the time of slavery as insurance for the future. And slavery is a whole other thing, you know, like that is some real burden. And for them to have the foresight and the hope to braid seeds for their children says a lot about the tenacity and wisdom of our people. And like you said earlier, this is a marathon, it's not a sprint. And so we've got to pace ourselves. We got to find our people to organize with, and remember that you might not see the fruits in a year or 2 years or 5 years. You might be passing the baton on, but it's incumbent on every single one of us to be part of taking those steps toward freedom. Otherwise, we've acquiesced and we've given up all of our power to empire. And that is just not a tenable option.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and becoming ungovernable, which is gonna, you know, we're heading there. The energy's starting to pick up, you know. But Leah, I'm so glad I got you, because I know you're so busy, and I just really wanted to end this day of programming, you know, with what it looks like, and that we don't have to get caught up. We're everybody's cautious. You know, I urge people to like find your people, know your people. A lot of the work is going to be local, which is what we need. Yeah. So, and just again, like what you all have done at Soulfire Farm, but it's like what everybody has done to continue to support the farm as not just a person, but like part of your soul, you know, i.e. Soulfire.
It is absolutely part of our soul. We would not do all this hard work if it wasn't part of our soul. So it's really sweet that you made time to include me and chase me down. I really appreciate it.
I know I chased you down. So fam, Leah Penniman, Soulfire Farm. Please follow them on social media. Check out Farming While Black if it's showing. And we'll have Leah back. And I'm telling you, and you might not be able to get in, but go sign up right now. You might catch some space. on solstice, where finally, after 2 years of not being there, I am going.
Oh, good. Wonderful.
Yeah,
We do have tickets, so folks should definitely, if you go to our website under programs, we have a calendar and there's registration links to
and everything. I mean, the amount of educational videos and everything. And of course, Farming While Black or Wisdom, a documentary. Woo, y'all done a lot in all the best ways. So I hope to see you in real life soon. Please give the fam our love and thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Peace and blessings. Take care.
Thank you, sis. I appreciate it. All right. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for rocking with me today. Thank you, everybody. We did it. I just want to make sure I shout out all the peoples that came on. I hope that everybody who watched, I hope that everybody who watched, and you can watch them if you didn't watch them, if you weren't able to catch many, but I just want to thank some folks for making this happen. So give me a quick second. Hey, everybody, I'm about to close out, but I wanted to thank every single guest. I just had to pull up and just make sure that I do not forget anybody. All right. So again, everybody there, thank you for joining me today for a full day of May Day programming from Disrupt the Chaos, sponsored by Cooperation Jackson. Oh, thank you, Andrew. Thank you, everybody. I'm so happy. And I needed this too. So thank you, Kali Akuno, co-founder of Cooperation Jackson. Thank you, Dequi Kioni-Sadiki, new African Black feminist radical. Thank you, Omowale Adewale, founder of Liberation Farm. Thank you, Dara Baldwin, for Disability Justice and Center for Disability Rights. Thank you, Jamarah Amani, Executive Director of the Birth Justice Network. Thank you, La Bruja, Victorio La Bruja, Executive Director of the New Yorican Poets, Victorio Reyes, Assistant Professor at University of Tampa, Jessica Pabon, Diasporic Puerto Rican Feminist Scholar, Kat Brooks from the Anti-Police Terror Project, Tonge Eisen-Martin, poet, movement worker, and educator, Kristian Mercado, director of Mataron Pedro, a filmmaker, Shaka King, writer, director, and also co-producer of Judas and the Black Messiah, Shana Redmond, professor at Columbia University, Samora Pinderhughes, musician, lyricist, abolitionist, and ending with Leah Penniman, co-founder of Soulfire Farm. Let me make sure it's 16. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. One more guest would have been 16, but 15 guests started at 10, ending now. Please follow my YouTube page, follow everybody on social media. All the flyers are up. You can get in touch with people. Thank you for participating in May Day. And for those who are in the streets and not on the streets, thank you for your work. So again, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Cooperation Jackson. This has been Disrupt the Chaos. I'm your host and producer, Rosa Clemente. And shout out my sister, Janita, who did the promotional flyers. All right. Peace, everybody. Hope to see you in the whirlwind or the movement. Take care.